to have him here. He is also the current president of the International Real Estate Federation for the chapter in Nigeria, as well as a member of many national and international professional bodies, amongst which are fellow Nigerian institutions of estate surveyors and valuers, Nigeria Institute of Management, President, International Real Estate Federation of FIABC Nigeria chapter, and present Vice President of International Membership Committee for FIABC as well. The International Appraisal Institute, Associate Member of International Facility Management, African Real Estate Society, Institute of Directors Nigeria Chapter, National Association of Certified Registered Property Management, International Facility Management Association, Nigeria, South Africa Chamber of Commerce, alumnus University of Ibadan, alumnus of Harvard Business Schools, and so on. It's incredible and it's very impressive. So we are in amazing hands today to be able to learn the anatomy of the real estate in Nigeria. So with that, I'll give the microphone to Tony, and he can take it from there and have my friend from Nigeria being part of this. An honor again to have you.
Thank you so much, Emmy, and thanks Adele for joining us. And as we do with all of our global chats, we try to have a format so that all of our global chats are the same. Really what we try to do is to give our audience a primer on the real estate transaction in your particular country. So it's basically the nuts and bolts of a real estate transaction in the country that's being featured. So obviously today we're going to be talking about Nigeria, and we'd like to begin by maybe having you say a few words about yourself. Emmy's already given us a great background, but if you'd like to add a couple of things about yourself, please, I'd like to give the floor to you.
Thank you, Tony. It's been my pleasure to be on this platform with you. And it's a rare opportunities and privilege
Yeah, I don't know what's up.
to be part of this global chat. To be part of this global chat.
Let me text you the Michael. Let me text you the name of Beatrice, okay?
Let me just say one thing.
Okay.
Anybody who has cell phones, if you could please turn off your cell phones, televisions, radios, and put yourself on mute, even better, so that we can all hear. Sorry about that. Thank you, Adele.
Okay. Just as I was saying now, I say it's a real privilege to be on this platform with Tony and the entire team. And thank you for that short introduction, a brilliant one from Carlin. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Presently, I'm the current president of FIABC Chapter Nigerians. And I don't want to waste much of our time because the questions sent to me are so enormous. And I will try as much as possible to do justice to all the questions. But one thing I can tell you at the end of this program is to invite you, Nigerian, to physically see things for yourself. Whenever we're having an annual program, FIABC programs, which I can assure you will not regret by being our members, if you are able to make it. As issue of element of visas will not be a problem to any members who wants to join us to see things for himself. So on that note, I want to say thank you to the Global Chats for the wonderful opportunity to showcase what Nigerian real estate is all about. And it's been tremendous in the couple of years. Thank you very much.
Great, and thank you for joining us. And Adele, the slide information that you provided, which is being shown on our screen, is really fantastic. And this really deals with the nuts and bolts of what the real estate transaction is here in Nigeria. So this is going to be posted on our website together with the recording of this program so that anyone who missed it today will be able to access it and get some real information on a real primer on how to do a real estate transaction in Nigeria. So if we can, let's begin by starting at the beginning. If we have a client who wants to invest in Nigeria, how do we go about doing it? Who do we speak with? What's the process?
Oh, that's a good question. If you have an investors or any clients who probably be interested in coming to Nigeria to invest, there are basic rules to come with. and that's by way of dealing with the professionals. But before coming to Nigerians, there are basic things the fellow might have to have in mind to really understand the real estate per se, how it's been operating in our environments, which is a bit different from United States and other parts of the world. Although we have a lot of professionals, non-real estate professional, as well as professionals in the real estate and build industry. We have them. But as an investor or somebody who wants to come and invest, there are basic rudimentary things they might have to follow in terms of visa applications, in terms of knowing the particular area to invest in. Is it in residential? Is it in commercial? Is it in hospitality business? Is it in a kind of warehousing? Or is it in pharmaceutical companies? In terms of, because of the COVID we are all facing now, the pandemic the entire globe is all facing. So there are so many areas and investors or whoever want to visit to invest in Nigeria can look up to. And in terms of returns, you have to look at your returns as well. How do you repatriate whatever you brought in after you must have made a lot of money in these sectors where you have invested in? So many opportunities. And in recent years, the federal government of Nigerians had made a lot more easier for investors to make it hassle-free in terms of accessibility to visas. Visa on entry is allowed for you to come into the countries. You can come in at the point of entry, you have your visas, provided all your due diligence are correct, and you have appropriate letter of invitations and all what have you, and there is no questions of doubt about your credibilities. So Nigerians is open to such an investors. So by and large, the market is a bit regulated to some extent, but the country as a whole is open to an investment in real estate. Presently, Nigerian is in shortfall of our housing, especially in terms of low-income housing. Low-income housing, when we're in dire need of it. For the entire country now, we're probably looking about shortfall of about 22 million housing shortages. And the government in all sectors, in all ramifications, in all the states and local governments, as well as at the federal level, they're looking for people to invest in real estate so that this element can be taken care of. So such an investor is thereby welcome to the country.
So obviously your recommendation is, as always, look for the professional. Being that there is a licensing body in Nigeria, tell us, how do we find the professional? How do we find the licensed real estate agent in Nigeria who can help us as investors to invest in properties? And then how do we go about looking for properties? Do we look for properties? Are we able to do that before we get to Nigeria? Is there an MLS? How does that work in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you for that. Getting to Nigerians, we have a lot of regulatory authority bodies, but in terms of real estates, we have Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers, which is my professional body. And apart from that, some states over the years, they look at the projections in terms of image projections of Nigerians. And they come to terms that they need to regulate in each of the states how the real estate agency is being practiced. So in order to afford a situation where an investor might not have a fuller information. So what they do, especially in Lagos State, there's a regulatory agency board that every agent in Nigerians, be it professionals or non-professional, once you want to go into the real estate, you have to get registered. And that is Lagos State Real Estate Registration Authority, which was commissioned recently and was inaugurated early January this year by the Lagos State government. And they have been doing tremendously well. So there's a website where you see the list of all registered agents and all that professional body. But if you belong to a professional body like my body, like estate surveyors and valuers, and which is being governed by X-ray Registration Board of Nigerians, then you are licensed to practice. And through them, they have a listing of all their properties, which is equivalent to multiple listing as is being practiced in United Kingdom and part of Europe and Canada. But here in Nigerians, we have some professional bodies that are doing that. Private sectors are doing that. Nigerian Property Pro, Nigerian MLS, and Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers. They have a body, they set up a committee where all our professional colleagues turn in their properties in and they will list it. But the one thing we have not been able to do in terms of inspections in Americans, I know you have a unique number that is given to you once you are a registered realtor. You can go into that multiple listings and have your number, but we don't have it here presently, but we are working towards it. But coming to Nigerians and talking to estate surveyors and valuers through the professional body earlier mentioned, then you are in a good hand. And the federal government also recognized the Association of Estate Agency of Nigerians and a lot of commission agents because of the built environment. All the developers, they track their properties and surrender some of their properties into all these professional bodies, and they are able to carry them along.
Great. So let's say we've met the right professional. We've found a property, and we are ready to make an offer. What's the process for doing that?
Making an offer is not all that simple, because you have to embark on a certain due diligence, because you need to identify the property you are looking at. And having identified the property you are looking at, there are basic questions you need to ask. Is this property being encumbered? Has this property been offered to somebody else? And if it's been offered, if it's been offered to somebody else, what is the durations or the time lapse for that offer to lapse? So there's a process of it. So the process of that transaction, because we're talking of offer and acceptance, I haven't identified. If you go through you can go through a lawyer, you can go through professional real estate consultants, or an estate surveyors and valuer, or some of private organizations. They build a lot of properties, they are developer, but their marketing sections delve into that offer sections. So what they do, they give you a list of terms and conditions in terms of the property descriptions, and in terms of the price, and in terms of the title registration, as well as other key elements, whether there's an encumbrance, whether the property is subject to mortgage or not. All these things will be listed. And once this offer is being given, there must be a term that is attached to it, which is subject to contract. That offer can last for probably about 7 days or 5 working days, because they have a multiple offers to be given out to other prospective clients or tenants or buyers or developers, or so to say. So you might be restricted to just 5 to 7 days. They will say this offer will last for 7 days. So within that ambit of 7 days, if they do not receive a counter offer from you, and you probably now assume, you say, okay, I'm going ahead with this offer, then the process started. And when this process is started, there must be an offer, there must be an acceptance. Before this, you need to carry out your due diligence. Then your lawyer will come into place. Before your lawyer comes into place, you might have some questions. What is the nature of the title? What's the best price you're looking at? And all information on this thing must be disclosed to you for you to be able to conduct the necessary search at the land registry. But in a situation where you have just ordinary receipts, the owner still lies on your representative, a professional estate surveyor or a lawyer who is representing the client from outside the country, to conduct a fresh due diligence on the title elements, onto the roots of the title, knowing the source, who are the principal members of this family that have sold this property at one time or the other, so that you don't fall into the hands of scam. So all these things are very important. And we have a department in Lagos and throughout the entire state. And that's department deal with land regulations. That is under the Ministry of Lands and Housing. And we have the Lands Bureau Services Department, and we have the Registry of Titles, where all title can be cross-checked, whether it is genuine or not, whether subsequent transactions have been carried out, whether there's unencumbered on the land. All these things put in place, your lawyer will be able to do whatever it is needful before you commit your money. And your lawyer must still go further to say that, look, this is not enough. Perhaps this property has been under mortgage. You might ask for the banks that are involved, the mortgagees and the mortgagors, ask relevant questions. And if it's a corporate body, you might have to determine from the Corporate Affairs Commission and ask them questions. Who are the board of directors of this company? At what point in time have they transferred title or the unexpired interest in this particular property to Mr. A or Mr. B? All these things, your lawyers must be able to do this, or through a professional estate surveyors and valuer who has acquired all the necessary skill, who will uphold the integrity of the board to make sure that board say you must be honest and you must make sure a due diligence is fully complied with. So these are the things you might have to look at. And in a situation where you have a title that is encumbered, okay, there are two ways to it. There's no problems about that. The parties can come into an agreement. Okay, how do we resolve these elements of this encumbrance? Okay, for instance, if Mr. A is owing about $1 billion and Mr. B's property is going for about 1.5, it's very simple. Ask for what is called redemptions, the statement of accounts with that bank, and ask for that. Has the secondary consent been obtained on that mortgage? Because if that mortgage is already registered, then there's a problem. So the bank need to lift up the mortgage, the registrations of the title in the ministry. Otherwise, there cannot be a secondary action. We have celebrated cases in this line. In the case of, we have a bank, Agilo Faso Sabana Bank, where the equity of a mortgage becomes an issue, but it was resolved. So henceforth, all the professionals, the lawyers, the people that have had the necessary skill, they are very careful in dealing with banks and make sure that due diligence are fully compliant with.
The role of the title company, do they also offer the title insurance so that in case someone misses something along the way and it turns out that there is an encumbrance after you've closed in the transaction, does title insurance cover you for that? Is that available in Nigeria, or does the title company just play a role of searching the records? Yeah, that's a good question. In Nigerians, where such cases do not, we don't have such cases per se. But where you have multinationals involved, like Chevrons or Mobi or Total, they might request from the onset that they want insurance. But the vendors might tell them, I'm sorry, you can't insure whatever you want to insure. But on my own parts, I think it's because of the orientations, but I know we'll get there because the insurance element is not there for now. We do not have that attached to any transactions, except if there's an insurance on the property to be bought. But that insurance is registrable in the owner's name. So it does not transfer to the new buyers or to the vendees. Mm-hmm. So that's what we don't have presently, sir. Okay, and another question that obviously most people have is, how do I make this purchase? Financing. Where does the money come from? How does it happen? Are there financing options available in Nigeria? Well, that's a good question. Very good questions. Where we, in Nigerians, the federal government makes certain policies, and that's by having federal mortgage institutions in the country. And not only that, some of the Nigerians and non-Nigerians who have assets. But with the Land Use Act of 1978, which specifically say that
for a foreigner or a non-resident to buy property or to lease, they are restricted within the ambit of law. They could own it for probably 3 to 25 years. That's allowed by the law. But hold it in perpetuity, that is not allowed. Because what you guys call a golden visa, we don't have it. We probably have a maximum of 5 years visa at a go. After the end of the 5 years, you could renew it. But coming back to your questions, which is just the issue of mortgage for the non-resident, it is allowed for non-resident to bring in your money. You can bring in your money through a third-party bank. If you borrow from UK or borrow from US, and you are using Standard Chartered Bank or Citibank, they could domicile that money for you, because the law did not permit, except a corporate organization, they could do that. And if they're doing that to borrow for investment in real estate, it's capital intensive and the interest rate is a bit high. It's as high as about between 12 and 13%. In most cases, it could go, sometimes it was about 18%. So which is like a commercial rate. So I don't know the kind of investment you want to put in at between 18 and 20% that will give you appropriate yield at the right times, given the scenario you are borrowing. So people are now being encouraged to borrow from outside at between 1 and 2%, then enroute it through your banks, a subsidiary bank in Nigerians, affiliated to Citibank of America. You understand what I'm saying? So by so doing, you have it cheaper. It is only that banks, the subsidiary bank in the country, in Nigerians, that will do the process for you. But coming back to the federal mortgage here in Nigeria, the federal mortgage only look at the low-income earners. The low-income earners, they were given a loan between 5 and 10 millions at interest rate about between 5 and 9%. Especially the rate just dropped because of the COVID-19 pandemic, because a lot of things has happened and things can never be the same. So with what the CBN has done, most of the mortgage loans to the borrowers are limited in quantum, in the sense that for the low income earner, you probably can access 5 million. And when you talk of great investment, 5 million cannot do anything. 5 million cannot buy land in the prime locations. So that's for the local people. But for the extra guy who's just coming as an investor, so is it I come to the corporate organizations and has a synergy with that corporate organization and source for his fund and everything. And most of the Nigerian governments, all the state governments, they make it so easy. And that's why the ease of doing business in Nigerians have changed. They look at their regulations, they look at the transparency, and they look at the how do you repatriate your money at the end of the day. So they make it so easy that from day one, they got to be honest. And in line with this, in line with the federal government policy, things has been so good that Nigerians are bringing a lot of foreign investor, direct investment from abroad, and it has turned the economic around.
And what, in terms of the timing of transactions, from start to finish, let's say we've identified a property in Nigeria and we've started the process of going through the closing. What is the timeline that we're looking at for closing a transaction in Nigeria?
That's a great question, because there's one key element. One could have said, closing the transactions and make it registrable at the land registry. It's only in the land registry that we might have some bottlenecks. Bottlenecks in the sense that in terms of administrative procedures, bureaucracies, I will use that word. Otherwise, within 2 to 3 months, you should be able to have your title, transfer your document back to you that you have secured an interest. But besides that, you could have a transaction within the, let's say within 21 days. If all the due diligence, if all the findings about that particular elements is correct, it's possible. having known the root of title, having conducted the survey, and having doing the charting and endorsement, and make sure that all the prescribed fees as laid down by the state government, depending on each of the state government. Because by the way, we have about 36 states in Nigeria, including Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. So they have different policy as regards the prescribed fee for the secondary transactions. And because of the land use decree, that consent is usually given by the state governor, because the land use decree of 1978 vested all land in the state, in each of the states, and thrust the land into the hands of the governor or the administrators of the state to keep and hold in trust. So all I need to do is to assess that opportunity from the government. But in doing that, the government must still give me consent. So the process of that consent is what I'm referring to bureaucratic bottlenecks in most cases. Usually 1 or 2 months delay can occur, but that bottleneck is there because we all know the civil servant for what they, from moving from one table to the other, so to say, that kind of things, it does happen in this part of the world. So with it, there's no problem as such.
Great, thank you. And who's buying in Nigeria right now? Are there investors from who are not from originally Nigeria? Are they citizens from Nigeria who are living abroad, who are looking to buy a second home in Nigeria? Non-citizens who are looking to invest? If they're investing in Nigeria, are they buying condo units? Are they buying commercial properties, warehouse type properties? What are they buying and who's buying?
Yeah, thank you for that question. A lot of guys are buying into Nigerian properties. And why are they buying into Nigerian properties is because of the returns. In spite of the pandemic, people are still making transactions, but limited to some sectors. For example, now, some of the high net worth properties, grade A properties, in recent times are not so much attracted to people because of COVID-19. But in terms of land, a lot of Nigerians that are abroad are key into the land banks because of capital appreciations. And they look at specific locations where the returns are very high. So they don't joke about that. You could buy for 6, 7, 8 months, keep it and speculate with it. If you buy something for about $25,000, let's say in January, by this time now, the market is already saturated. You could sell for about $50,000 or $75,000. That's in terms of the land. So most people tend to put their money in terms, keep their money in the land bank. And coming back to the condos at terraces, as well as other flats or studio apartment, people are still buying. But within the what age brackets? Because a lot of people are now working from home. And a lot of Nigerians that have money in the banks, because of the CBN policy that has brought down the interest rate on the savings. So savings is not being encouraged. We used to have a fixed deposit. On a fixed deposit of $1 million, the CBN could probably give you about 12.5%. So if I have 12.5% on $1 million, I don't need to do any work. I don't need to go and carry motor and bricks. All I need to do, cash out that money and take everything. And at the end of the day, my full 1 million will still be given to me. But since the federal government and the CBN policy changed in the last 1 year, so the bubble burst. What happened now? People now start rethinking, go back into the real estate and begin to develop, have a JV with some of the developer. If I have land, I could develop some block of flat for you, then we have a ratio. Because I am the developers, I could do 60, the owner could take about 40%, depending on the basic appraisers of the investment appraiser. If it's just, you can do that. So, and now people buy off plan. As I'm talking to you now, in part of Lagos, I use Lagos as a case study. There's a place we call Banana Island, there's a place we call Victoria Island, and there's a place we call Lekki. In those axes, in those zones, things are at the peak as I'm talking to you. Before the COVID, take for instance, Banana Island was probably going for about average about 500,000 per square meter. That's a naira. If I take that one to about, if I take it to about dollars, that will probably goes to about almost 200, about 200 or so to say. So, and recently it suddenly jumped to about 650,000 per square meter. And that is the cost of land. So a unit price of a flat is almost about $1.5 million. So if you look at the yields of, in terms of the interest on it, that probably give you between 10 and 12% on your investment. And if you're having 10 or 12%, 12.5% on investment, you agree with me on this platform that that's a better investment for anybody to cash on. And apart from that, we have some Lebanese, we have some Americans, we have some Europeans who are already here over the years. And some Indians, they are great people, they are here. They've helped Nigerians to develop their economies, and they believe so much. So some of the high-rise properties, some of them are empty because people move out, because people travel out of the country. But gradually, people started coming back. Then another area that is booming now is in the pharmaceutical area, in the pharmaceutical sectors. Because with the post-COVID, a lot of people are looking for a warehouse where they could store some of their drugs or whatever they have produced, because the government gives some palliatives to them to produce more, to stop importing and thereabout. And aside that, the market is not all that bad in this part of the world, especially in terms of flats, and the condo flat, it's doing great. And the return investment, it's good, it's not that bad. But the snag is the cost of borrowing from the bank.
And what about going forward? Once you own the property, what are the implications? The property taxes, any other taxes that have to be paid? If we wanted to, as investors, rent out the condo unit or the commercial property or whatever it is that we've purchased, are there rent regulations that are typically involved? I know that could be very complicated in some countries, but what would be the implication going forward once you do own the property? What are you looking at? What are you looking at dealing with?
Well, in terms of property tax, it depends on each of the states. But from the federal governments, those taxes that are very statutory are just the withholding tax, the capital gain tax, as well as the VAT. Those are the areas that we look at. But in terms of condo, if I'm taking an apartment from Mr. Tony now, and probably you say it's $1,000 per month in Nigerians, once you tell me $1,000 is net of tax, you're telling me that, Mr. Adele, you are going to be responsible for withholding tax and other tax elements. All I want from Mr. Adele is $1,000 a month that is given. So which means you pass all the box, all the extra expenses to me. Because most landlords in this part of the world, they're very smart. They will probably do their calculations, except you now add it to the rent from onset. So they do that. And usually VAT is just about 7.5, which is usually paid either by the tenants or because of the agency work that is involved, you pay that. As for the withholding tax, the tenant equally pays or the landlord pays, depending on the agreement on both parties. If they agree from the one, okay, I will pay this thing, my rent is X amount of naira or X amount of US dollar, then I'm going to do that. So that is allowed. But if you buy a property now, in terms of capital gain tax, you might end up pay from the act of, that act was reviewed September 14, I think September 2019, it was reviewed. And it used to be something high, but eventually come to about 10%. That's the capital gain tax on the property. Usually, it should be paid by the vendors, the fellow that sold the property out. But in Nigerians, some people are very smart. They will say, no, the capital think tax have tried to add it to it or less it off, then you go and pay it. It depends on the deal that is struck that you are able to strike. But in Nigerians, those tax are basic tax and you cannot go about it. Apart from that, we have what is called land use charge. Usually or primarily, it's being paid by the owners of the property. And that's being regulated as well by the authority. That's by the governments. So every property, be it commercial, residential, or hotels, or whatever is on the land, you have to pay. So they charge you for that because those are the money they use for infrastructural development of the states.
Great. And many of the buyers in Nigeria who are not from Nigeria, who are coming from other countries, obviously they start out with an agent here in the United States or in the UK or somewhere in Europe or from wherever. What is the relationship that you have with these outside agents? How common is it to have referral agents work with you, work with agents in Nigeria? What's the commission structure like? How easy is it to get paid on that referral? How does that process work?
It's very simple. For example, now I did some transactions with Keller Williams and Coldwell Bankers. Sometimes last year, I'm part of early this year. I was given a referral by these two companies because they're my friend back in Atlanta and Tennessee. So I've known those guys. And the structure is this. That's what we call joint finder's fee. If you find me a job finder is usually 2.5%. But in case of where both of us agree, the normal fee is 10%. Once we agree that, okay, you are giving me the client and everything, we share it on equal basis. And that's a 5% to the fellow that sent that client to me, and I take 5%. That's what we do in my company because we look at the volumes. But in a situation where you just refer and just, okay, Adele, just take this client, everything. Oh, job finding fee is 2.5. I must, at the close of that transaction, make that money available for you. But where we have the sellers and buyer, that your seller is from that side, you take your 5%, I take my 5%, I must not be seen to be taken from both sides. It's an offense as stated by estate surveyors and valuers, my professional body, except the two people give you a separate instructions. If they do not, then you are not liable to collect from both sides. And it's an offense and it's punishable by the board. So the charges for letting of properties or leasing of property is usually 10% of commissions. And you probably have to go by way of have the legal paper being documented. Our lawyers in this part of the world, they charge 10%, but they do negotiate. I'm probably, okay, can we do 7.5 or 5%? So that goes. But usually,
they're negotiable. They're negotiated. They're not.
They're negotiable. Yeah, they're very negotiable. They're negotiable. It depends on your bargaining powers of both sides.
Mm-hmm. And what we have through the National Association of Realtors, the CIPS designation, which I'm sure you're familiar with, the Certified International Property Specialist. What is your experience with CIPS? Do you find that you're working with CIPS agents, agents who have the CIPS designation in Nigeria?
Yeah, with a couple of agents that have CIP designation, and they're fantastic, and they're very upright. That's that's the way I look at them, and they never take anything for granted. And in terms of documentation, they are excellent. So a couple of them I've dealt with, right from the one, they tell you the way things are being done, not the way we are doing things. So if you're ready to go by the way professionals are carrying on activities, the CPIS you have to have mentioned, I gave them kudos, no doubt about that. But having said that, looking at Nigerian Institute of Estate Surveyors and Valuers, which regulates the body that's all the estate agency work, valuations, appraisal, there are basic standards like RICS, Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors and Valuers as well. So you cannot run short of those standards. It's very, very important. So it's similar to CIPS. You must follow those standards. And when anybody who is dealing with this professional body, you have to be careful. All your facts must be disclosed. Ignorance is no excuse in law. So most of my professional colleagues out there, what they do is disclose all their information from day one. Nothing to hide. And you can cross-check this fact, whether in the Ministry of Land, whether it's in the bank, all these are well regulated. Everything. And we did a course sometimes last year, we call it FAREC, where we have Mr. Bill Kingsley and some other guest speaker came all the way from Chicago and part of America. It's a designated course recognized by FIEPSI International. That course talks about the property rights. Those key elements, those key 6 elements in the property rights, we try to look at it in terms of transparency, in terms of effective corporate governance, in terms of appropriate regulations, and in terms of financial transaction, this framework, and in terms of the authority that are involved in ensuring that things are properly run, just to change the entire scenario of Nigerians. So those are the things we've been able to do. So FIEPSI Nigerians is not left out. So not only that, we imbibe the culture of leadership and look at it. So what we're trying to look at the end of the day, when you look at the property scorecard, you can rate Nigerians. Where are we as compared to Kigali? Where are we as compared to Kenya? So in that way, the scenario is changing. So anybody who wants to invest in Nigeria, as it goes into the property scorecard, the fellow will be able to see, oh, in terms of property right, these people are here. In terms of registration, these people are here. In terms of transparency, financial transparencies, legal framework, everything, you will see it at glance. Then not only that, because of the LMS that have been structured here in Nigeria, you can go through the appropriate estate surveyors and valuers or estate agents, as stated in my papers to you. So,
I want to thank you, first of all, for this slide presentation, which is absolutely phenomenal. I encourage everyone to go to our website later on today or tomorrow. Once it's posted, it has tremendous amount of information that I think is extremely, extremely useful. I would like to spend a few minutes now just kind of opening it up to questions, because I'm sure we have some guests on the program right now who are really interested in asking you some more specific questions. So if anyone has a question, we can just take them one at a time. Kathleen, I think you're on mute.
I guess I'll ask the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here's the question. Here in the U.S., there is a great deal of repurposing buildings to accommodate a post-COVID world. Are there any similar scenarios in Nigeria?
Come again. Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Here in the U.S., there is a great deal of repurposing buildings to accommodate a post-COVID world. Are there any similar scenarios in Nigeria?
Yeah, if I understand your question, are you talking of relief, post-COVID relief on transactions?
Teresa, do you want to unmute and clarify?
No, yeah, I'll clarify for you. For example, hi, this is Teresa Belmore. I'm one of the directors here at HGAR.
Teresa. You're welcome.
Let's say, for example, we have an office building and it's really, not going so well between landlord tenant. Because of COVID, they're not able to secure a lot of the tenants. So they'll repurpose that building in order to get an easier cash flow. So I want to know if that's similar or if there's any scenario similar to that in Nigeria.
Yes, we do, especially on all the grade A properties. For instance, the building where we have the Microsoft, where we have the Microsoft, at the moment, we have some floors that are vacant, and we have a couple of tenants corporate tenants who approach us and they seek for moratorium of 1 year. And my clients say, okay, Adele, can you just waive it for them? And because of what happened. So we understand.
Right.
Then we bring out the rents at a later date because that thing has started from June. So they are operating the free rent for the next 1 year now.
Gotcha.
So because it's like a relief package for them. And these are good tenants. We don't want to lose them and we don't want the building to be empty so that the cost of maintenance of the entire facility, somebody has to take care of it. But we just ask them, okay, fine, we give you rent, but you take care of these facilities and everything. And we struck that deal and everybody moves on. So it's okay. It's like a palliative, which I would call it.
Very good.
So we call it moratorium period of between 6 and 1 year. It's given to
Thank you. Rajpal had a question for you.
Hey, Adele, how are you? Good to see you.
Fine, thank you, Raj. Yeah, happy birthday, belated birthday once again. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, so nice of you.
Yeah.
Thanks for remembering. Quick question for you. You were talking a little bit about money repartition, and I'm a money guy, you know that. So is there first of all, any restrictions on bringing the money back when you're reparting the money? Does it have to be the same amount as the foreign exchange invested? Or if there is a profit, you can bring the profit with no restrictions as well? And one step further, it's a two-phase question. When you're selling any properties, what are the tax implications? Is there capital gains tax or is there income tax that has to be paid in Nigeria when you're selling properties? So 2 questions, I guess, in one.
Yeah, in terms of selling your property, you have to pay capital gain tax of about 10% as stipulated by the laws of Nigeria. And that is Federal Inland Revenue Services. They will tax you that. That's that questions or that the element of taxation. You just have to declare and everything. The issue of transparency here is very key. Then coming back to your questions, in terms of repatriations of your fund, you came here to invest in Nigerians. Certainly, the Nigerian government will not debar you or disallow you from taking your money out of it. Once that money came through genuine process, what I mean by genuine process, it came through the CBN, through the bank, a designated bank, and they have seen it that, oh, this is an investor, they're doing some couple of real estate here, definitely your money should be taken out. So there's no problems about that. But what the government is particular about it, total transparency, declare at the point of entry, your intentions. So all these things make easy. Hassle free, then you are free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So we have a few minutes before we close out our session. Does anyone have any other questions for Adele?
Tony, yeah, I'd just like to expand on Roger's question. I understand that capital gains tax is 10%, but if you wanted to continue to invest, can you do a 1031 exchange as we do here in the United States? Is this available for foreign investors?
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that, but I can just investigate further. But I know some couple of organizations in this part of the world who have been here in the last 15, 20 years, like Chagoris, and that is South Energy. They invest so much on Atlantic estates, which is a part of Victoria Land, facing the Atlantic. So they've been here a couple of years, and in fact, I can say they're part and parcel of Nigerians, and they're doing fantastically well. They might be given some exception by the government because they see them as a partners, and because they are looking for the development of this country. So they give a kind of stimulus. They leverage on the stimulus and the amount of leverage, on the amount of incentive. So like an attraction for investors to come in. So they believe so much in investors to come in, and they relax. It used to be about 15, 20% before. They suddenly bring it down. So I think that should not be out of play. So that is good. Thank you very much.
Good to know.
We have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. From
Fernandez.
Yeah, thank you very much for your intervention. Very, very informative. I have one question. Is your company will, how do you say that, accept to play like intermediary between for a transaction in other place in West Africa. Let's say I want to invest, or I have a client looking to buy like in places like Côte d'Ivoire or Senegal, Dakar, and I don't have a representation. Will you be able to be like a go-between between myself and my client and some real estate people in those places?
Yeah, I should be able to do that for you.
Okay.
Let me give an instance here. I did something for one of our FIEPSI member, and that's, is it John or who? They have something to do in Chad, in Niger. That was even an appraiser, it's a valuation. So, and we were contacted, and I set the machinery in motion, went to Kano, from Kano to that place, we got the job done, and we sent them a report. And we did another transactions in terms of sales of properties, which is acquisition per se, in South Africa and Joburg. I did for a client who probably residing in Canada. And today we still manage that property. And that property is a block of files, it's a mooring site, and it's commanding, it's yielding some good rent for our client. So in the case of Fernandex, anything you have in West Africa, which is sub-Saharan West Africa, consider it done, give it to Mr. Adinija Dele and Associates, who will not disappoint you.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you. I think we have to close today's session, and I want to thank everybody for joining us. And Kathleen, if you'd like to give us some information on our next global chat before everybody leaves, please do so.
Yes, and actually I'll have Teresa introduce, since she was the one who kindly arranged for that. So Teresa, do you want to introduce our next global chat?
Oh, okay. I didn't have any information in front of me, but I think that we're going to have a speaker from Cuba. He's an architect, Emilio Escalades. We're going to have another architect developer, Carlos Peregrina. He's from Argentina. We're going to have one of our members from HGAR, Valon Nixie. He's from Montenegro, Albania. And lastly, we're going to have a speaker from Mozambique, from ERA Group. He's a broker owner as well as a developer and investor. And they're going to be speaking about doing business in these countries as well as focusing on commercial and some parts residential real estate. And that's going to be taking place, I think, on, what is it, November the 9th? The 9th, November the 9th at 10
And then
o'clock.
we have a global chat on December 3rd, and that is with Tanya Van Blade Coleman, and she is in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and looking forward to that as well.
Great. Thank you. And
And
thank you,
Tony.
thank you, Adele. All of this information, this program is recorded and it will be on our website together with the slide presentation that Adele so graciously provided for us today. Emmy, I think you wanted to.
Yes, yes. First of all, I wanted to thank Adele so much once again. And also to everybody, his contact information, it is within the presentation. So we invite everybody to visit our website, download the information. If anybody wants to contact Mr. Adele, please do so. His contact information will be available to all.
And for those members of the HGAR Global Business Council, stay tuned because we will be following with our business meeting. So please stay on, and thank our guests for joining us today.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, one more question, sorry.
Yeah, do we have time to squeeze out one more question?
Sure.
Okay,
You can do it.
go ahead, Akileye. That's a Nigerian name. Hi.
Many. So you mentioned Lagos briefly with areas that pretty much were already high valued. In your opinion, what other like emerging cities are there in Nigeria that are still promising to invest in, but aren't on the higher end of, you know, price per square foot or haven't already been priced at a high value?
Thank you for that question. In terms of the entire Nigerians is the emerging markets, especially African per se, is the emerging market. And that's why you see most people talking about African they will tell you that African is the next frontier. Take it or you leave it. So it's an emerging market. Europe, American, we can say perhaps they are saturated. And when you talk in terms of your returns on your investment, once you get your figure right and you get your due diligence and you are dealing with the right caliber of set people, good people, then your return is secure. Coming back to your question right now, aside Lagos, we have Abuja, and that's the seat of government, administrative seat of government in Nigeria. The place is not bad. We just did a evaluation, an appraisal for a bank, which I'm going to sign off in another moment now. The property, the guy probably invests some few thousands of naira, and the value today goes to almost about 100 millions or more than that. That's about 200 millions in terms of naira. So the capital appreciation is there. And in terms of rent, the rent appreciation is equally there. And most importantly, like I talk about land banks, most Nigerians, because of this pandemic, they retrace their step in building more buildings, in constructing more structures. It's okay, fine. Let me use this money to buy land and keep and watch as it grows, especially in a limited area. You don't have so many lands in Abuja and Port Harcourt and Lagos. So people will tend to look at this area to invest. And once you get it right, then the sky's the limit. You catch out. It's a question of time.
Okay. Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hope I'm able to answer your questions.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Exactly. Can I ask this question, please? Will you be kind enough to send me the link so I can give to my chapter, my FFC chapter?
Absolutely.
So they can link up whenever we're having this program.
Thank you. We'll send you the recording.
Tony, Emily, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank
Nice
you.
seeing all of you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for being my.
Bye, Adele.
Thanks.